Hello and welcome to Stuff Every Queer Kid Should Know, the survival guide for late adolescence, but also this part of Michigan.
Max, they can't see that.
I'm pointing at my thumb for anyone not watching the YouTube part of this show. I'm Max Emerson, a writer and performer leveraging social media to create independent narratives. Similar to my other endeavors, this podcast is designed to provide vital resources, role models, and tools that enhance your well-being, foster connections, and support personal growth from late adolescence onward. Welcome back to a brand new episode. Today's guest is my beautiful, gorgeous, I'm going to say it, sexy partner, Andrés.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to be back.
It's nice to have you here. If you're not familiar with Andrés, I suggest that you go back to the rock you crawled out under. Check out some of the earlier episodes of this show. We've got rapid fire questions with him. He has fought me on multiple topics. We've been doing this for like 8 years. So if Andrés is a surprise to you, I don't know where you've been. This is an Ask Me Anything episode. We are excited to dive into the topic of adoption and share insights from our personal journey. Our goal is to offer a transparent look at the process, answer your questions, and provide support to anyone considering adoption. We appreciate your curiosity and are eager to engage in this meaningful conversation. So let's get it started. We're going to explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to adoption.
Let's do it.
I've got a list of questions here, sourced fresh from Instagram. First question is, are you currently in the adoption process?
Yes, we are. We're in the newborn domestic adoption process.
Yes. The type of adoption we're doing is called newborn infant domestic adoption, which means we will be trying to match with a birth mother who is currently pregnant somewhere in the United States. I think that includes Alaska and Hawaii. And the idea is to adopt the child as soon as they're born. What stage are you in at the adoption process, and what are the next steps?
We are in the wait to get match stage, but maybe we should rewind and maybe talk about some of the stages.
Yeah, we can get to that, because the next question is, how long does the adoption process take?
Okay.
I think the short answer is, like, the rough average is 2 to 3 years. The very first step of the process is deciding which type of family building you're going to do, whether that's surrogacy, whether that's fostering, whether that's international adoption, or infant newborn domestic adoption. In order to adopt in the first place, you have to do something called a home study.
Yeah, the home study is where you do essentially all the paperwork part of it and the background checks, and that's financial, physical, emotional. They just go into every aspect of your life and make sure that you are not some crazy person trying to get a baby, and that you can provide a stable home. And they also educate you on stuff that you may have gaps in knowledge on.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, how strenuous has the adoption process been from the beginning till now? The home study is by far the most strenuous part of the process. I mean, before you even begin, you have to make a huge deposit and commit to the process. So you can't be doing, if you're a straight couple, doing IVF or hoping for surrogacy. You have to make the decision to do adoption, which is harder than you think to actually commit to something like this, because it's a long journey. And then you talked about the background check a bit. I mean, you have to go somewhere and get your fingerprints scanned. It is a really strenuous process.
Yeah. 3 years of taxes.
If you've ever been arrested, even at 16, you have to report it and do a whole string of paperwork for it. There are so many things that happen.
They interview references. They interview us together. They interview us apart.
There's an actual home inspection.
There's a lot of components to this home study.
It kind of hints to some terrible things that must have happened in this industry in the past. Some of the things that are happening, you're like, why do I have to do this? And then you really think about it, and you're like, oh, there's been a lot of abuse in the family building industry. But we don't need to get into all of that right now.
No, the good news is we passed, and then we went on to the stage where you essentially just wait to be matched.
Yeah. After you pass the home study, you build a profile, which is kind of like a 16-page, for lack of a better description, Tinder bio, where you showcase what your home is like, what your friends are like, where your neighborhood is, how great of a life it's going to be, if you have a religion, what your parenting styles are going to be. It's very flowery, but it's like a brochure. You're the you're the product. Because essentially what happens is when these pregnant women decide to make this incredibly difficult adoption decision, they go shopping. They go shopping for the coolest life they can find for their kid. Not just coolest, but most loving, wonderful, supportive, but also cool life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the factors are different across,
Yeah.
across the board.
If you're like me, you want to fuel your body with the best possible ingredients, whether you're working out, staying active, or just looking to maintain a healthy lifestyle. That's why I'm excited to share with you Peori's Whey Protein. It's not just any protein powder, it's a game changer. Peori's Whey Protein is sourced from grass-fed cows, ensuring that you're getting a clean, pure, and high-quality protein. What sets this protein powder apart is its simplicity and commitment to quality. There are no artificial sweeteners, fillers, or unnecessary additives, just pure protein goodness with a delicious natural bourbon vanilla flavor. Plus, it's sweetened with organic coconut sugar, so it tastes amazing without all the junk. Whether you're mixing it into your morning smoothies or shaking it up post-workout, Peori Protein Powder delivers 21 grams of protein per serving, helping to support muscle recovery, energy levels, and overall wellness. And for those of us who care about where our food comes from, it's great to know that Peori's Whey is certified by the Clean Label Project, ensuring it's free from harmful contaminants like heavy metals and pesticides. Ready to elevate your protein game? Head over to Peori.com and use my promo code MaxEmerson. That's Peori.com/MaxEmerson. Don't mess out. Head to Peori.com/MaxEmerson and use promo code MaxEmerson today. Ever wonder how your daily habits like your meals, sleep, or stress impact your health? NutriSense offers a way to take the guesswork out of the wellness journey. For many people, managing health can feel like a shot in the dark. They're trying different diets, workouts, and routines, but without the right information, it's hard to know what's truly working. That is where NutriSense comes in. NutriSense isn't just another health trend. It's a comprehensive program that pairs real-time data from a continuous glucose monitor with one-on-one personalized coaching from expert nutritionists. This combination helps users understand how their bodies respond to food, exercise, sleep, and stress, giving them the insights they need to make informed decisions about their health. What sets NutriSense apart is its unique approach to personalized health. While other programs might offer generic advice, NutriSense tailors its advice based on your unique data. With the support of a board-certified nutritionist, users can receive customized recommendations that align with their specific health goals, making it easier to achieve lasting results. If you're ready to take control of your health, visit nutrisense.io/MaxEmerson to get $50 off your first month. That is nutrisense.io/MaxEmerson. Or you can click on the link in the notes and use my special code, MaxEmerson, for an exclusive $50 discount. Take the first step towards better health with NutriSense today. So how long did it take for us to decide to adopt? And were there any moments of doubt? I'm not sure what doubt means here, but
I maybe we should answer that in reverse. As far as doubt, I think that we've been pretty secure on our choices so far, and that none of it has made us regret anything. So I don't think there's been any doubt, but there has been a journey in how we decided to get to the infant newborn adoption, and then how we made some of the determinations that come with that, right? So we get to pick if we have a preference on gender, which we do not, if we have different preferences along the way of what kind of birth mother matches we're able to take on.
Well, back to doubt, I think it's worth pointing out that Andrés and I, from I think our very first date, or whatever we're going to officially call our first date, talked about things like this. We have always been in alignment from day one that our mutual goal is to have a family, to have kids, which meant probably not living in New York City. But this is something we've always been building towards, or at least having in mind when we make our decisions.
Yeah, I don't even remember when we talked about it. I think it was pretty early on, and it was such a non-conversation, I think, because we were so aligned on what the future of family making look like to us that we've never even thought about it beyond. We kind of just agreed generally what it should look like.
We've had little conversations before about kind of what route we want to take for family building, but it wasn't until about a year ago where we had to make the decision. And it was a good 6 months of talking to surrogacy agencies, talking to parents of surrogate children, talking to parents of adopted children, talking to parents of foster children, talking to all those agencies, talking to people who work as
Talking
social
to people
workers,
that were adopted.
talking to people who hate babies, just to double check. But we eventually landed on infant newborn domestic adoption for several reasons. The main thing was deciding what we felt like we were equipped to handle and what fits our values. Surrogacy for us never really felt like the right fit. I mean, it's insanely expensive. In California specifically, there's a lot of things that make it really complicated. We've heard mixed reviews with stories about the experience of working with these different companies. And also, both of us, I don't know, we travel a lot and we see a lot of things with, I don't know, just even like climate change. Like if you don't want to pollute the planet anymore, don't add people to the planet. Just things like that all kind of weighed into all of the signs were pointing towards adoption in some capacity.
Yeah, and this was our own personal mix of what we were looking for. No judgment on other people making different decisions.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong whatsoever with having surrogate kids, but for us, it came down to either fostering or newborn adoption. We were looking into international in some capacity because Andrés is still technically a Colombian citizen, dual citizen, but they've changed a lot of those processes in the last couple of years where it became incredibly difficult and it just didn't seem like the right route.
When we consider fostering, I think one of the big things I thought about was if we could build a structure for the child that would be really secure and like would be just really solid, even if they kind of changed hands again and they went back to their original families. And I think because of a lot of our public kind of spotlight, I felt like I think the answer was no. And I think the answer kind of changes to a yes if we can be with a child from early on and teach them, what it all means and how we got here.
The entire goal of the foster program is to eventually return the children back to their parents. And I don't know if I can handle that. So that's, for me, the reason we made the decision to adopt a newborn, so that it would just be a final decision. I hope at some point we do have the capacity to foster children in the future and be that sort of stability for people and maybe even adopt through that program. But we want to get started for now with just kind of the most simple framework that we can put together. How does the adoption process compare to your expectations? Is it easier or is it harder than you thought it would be?
I mean, we're going to talk about something, I think, later on. We're going to save for the end. But without getting into that, I think it's about what I expected. I mean, I knew there would be some ups and downs. I knew that there was chances where some couples get really lucky and they have this perfect story, and then other couples have a bumpier road. And so I was pretty realistic that we could fall into either category. I think so far we've had some bumps in the road.
We've had some serious bumps in the road. I knew there was going to be trouble when I saw all of the brochures that the matching agencies and law firms were sending us. It was all flowery. It looked like toilet paper commercials. It was so lovely and soft focus and giggling babies, and like, this isn't it. This is a product they're selling us. This is going to be a difficult and heart-wrenching process, at least for somebody. Like, this is not the happy tale that they're trying to sell you on when you first sign up for this process. Also, the timeline is a lot more difficult than you think it is. And yes, some people have had really easy experiences where there's a baby born, they make the decision that day, they swoop in, it's called a stork drop. But the average match time, once your profile goes live, so that's after you make the decision, you pass your home study, you build your profile and list it. So that's when you go live, that's 6 months in. The average match time from this point to your match with a birth mom is 18 months. That's average. So it's a really long process, and you're just kind of sitting there waiting, putting your life on hold. And it's a lot more stressful than people think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really putting your life on hold because you don't know how long it's going to be. So you can't just pause until you have a kid, but you also can't like step on the gas in some crazy way because you might expect to have a kid soon. So it's this like, hey, let's kind of have this life where it's really kind of stable and temperate.
Hey there, listeners. If you're looking to boost your vitality and support your reproductive health, we've got something special for you. Let's talk about Shilajit, a powerful natural supplement that's been used for centuries in traditional Ayurvedic medicine. Recent studies show that Shilajit not only increases testosterone levels, but also significantly improves sperm quality and quantity. We're talking better sperm count, enhanced motility, and healthier morphology, all key factors for the male parts. But not all Shilajit is created equal. That's why we recommend Black Lotus Shilajit. Sourced from the pristine Altai Mountains, Black Lotus Shilajit is pure, potent, and packed with fulvic acid and essential minerals. Unlike other brands, Black Lotus undergoes rigorous purification processes to ensure you're getting the highest quality product on the market. So if you're serious about optimizing your masculine parts, Black Lotus Shilajit is your go-to supplement. Boost your energy, enhance your fertility, and feel your best naturally. My favorite product of theirs is the tincture. I leave it under my tongue for like 15 seconds and go. Try it today. Head over to blacklotusshilajit.com and use code MAX for 15% off your order. That's blacklotusshilajit.com, code MAX, because you deserve the best. Stuff Every Queer Kid Should Know is brought to you by Max Emerson's Patreon. Do you ever feel like daily Instagram updates from your favorite influencers just aren't enough? Are you curious what the VIP section of social media is like? Well, buckle up because Max Emerson's Patreon page is here to rescue you from the mundane. Get ready for exclusive access to Max's wild adventures, behind the scenes shenanigans, and a smorgasbord of engaging content that you won't find anywhere else. From sneak peeks to surprise gifts to mentions in the credits of videos and podcasts, Max's Patreon is the ultimate way to support independent queer storytelling. So what are you waiting for? Join today and let's make the internet a little more colorful, one Patreon pledge at a time. Patreon.com/Maxisms. The next question is, did you work with an adoption agency or consultant?
We worked with a agency law firm.
Yes, our law firm is acting as an agency. It's from everybody we talked to, it was highly recommended because the newborn adoption world, as well as the surrogacy world, is full of scams. Supposedly 1 in 6, even heterosexual couples, are infertile. There are 2 million families trying to adopt a newborn right now. And I think there's about, 100,000 that happen every year?
Yeah.
They wildly outnumber the supply, for lack of a better term. And there are so many ways that people get scammed in this industry. It used to be even worse with international adoptions. We've met people who did a 23andMe. They were adopted from birth. They thought they were rescued from, Korea or the country of Georgia. And they do a 23andMe and they find their birth parents in that country and learn that they were kidnapped. Because families are so hungry to get their family started that they'll pay all this money and it just opens up a massive industry of abuse. So you want to make sure that whoever you go with is incredibly reputable and is also going to protect you. That was probably, the home study was intense, but I think the hardest decision was actually finding the right law firm or agency for us to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I trusted a lot of that decision to you because you seemed more kind of vetting. So
I like the one we picked because when we had our phone call with them, it wasn't as much that flowery story of when you get that baby in your arms, everything's going to be amazing and you're going to save this person's life. They were so no bullshit about it. I'm very much an East Coaster. I don't want a flowery story. I want you to be completely real with me. They're like, look, you're probably going to be dealing with a birth mother with substance abuse issues or has massive amounts of trauma, and this might get really ugly. This might be really hard. You might have a failed adoption. These things happen. Like, they are here because they are making the hardest decision of their life. Like, this may be a great moment for you, but it's going to be the shittiest moment of someone's life. And that's what I needed to hear. I needed someone to just show me that they were being honest. We also had like referrals about them. We contacted people that they worked with in the past and made sure that like they were positive experiences as well.
Yeah.
We're going into costs. How much does the adoption process cost?
Ooh, it's pricey.
Yeah, it's not cheap. generally, like the rundown on the family building process is, in California at least, surrogacy costs anywhere from $150,000 to $220,000. Infant newborn adoption can cost anywhere from $35,000 if you are insanely lucky and have your own birth mother and don't have to pay to match, to I think $65,000 is usually what people end up paying, is $65,000. But fostering is also an option for a lot of people, and there are programs where you can even get paid a stipend to help foster. So there are ways for people to build a family in their own capacity, and that goes into kind of how you're able to judge what option is right for you. Oh, wow, there's a lot of questions about cost. I actually answered all of them. Will it cost more than my salary? It depends on how much you make. For us, we saved a long time to be able to do this, not just to be able to afford the cost, but to be able to have a place in a neighborhood that we want to live in that has an extra bedroom. We're 35 years old and we still haven't had a wedding.
I'm 36.
Divorce. We still haven't had a wedding because we want this first. We've had to make a lot of sacrifices in order to be able to do this, but I don't know, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing right now.
Yeah.
Are you adopting privately or through public adoption? This is technically private.
Private.
What age of child are you hoping to adopt, and would fostering be an option?
So this is newborn adoption that we're, the route we're pursuing. So it's pretty hard at this point to adopt other age kids, but there are situations where the birth mother's placing her incoming child up for adoption, but may have a 2-year-old that they might also want to place with the same family. So those cases do happen, and we do want more than one child. So it's something we've considered and are open to. But I think on the young toddler is about as, is kind of where we're comfortable now. And I think a lot of that, we just want to make sure that the child has minimized trauma in their life so that we can traumatize it ourselves.
Oh, Jesus. To any birth mothers watching, that was a joke. Once you're done with your home study and building your profile, they call it phase 1. What they do is they send, at least our agency, is they send you a whole list of things that you're willing to accept and feel like you are able to take on in an adoption. That's everything from what you want for gender, what you want for race. And they have classes for things like this. Like if you think that you are able to do a transracial adoption, but you don't have any Black friends in your life, you might not be equipped to do a transracial adoption. They really manage your expectations as far as like whether or not you can provide cultural access to the type of person that you want to adopt. So you answer all of these things, like what drugs you are comfortable with a birth mother doing, what pre-existing conditions you are open to. We are pretty damn accepting of most things. Like we're willing to hear just about any case. I think the big one that people really, really look out for is excessive alcohol use. That seems to cause the most long-term problems for people.
And it's one our agency
has
also
recommended.
Just stays away from, I think, as an agency.
Yeah, they tend to screen things out like that. But what happens is when they have a birth mother that comes to them, they verify that it's a real human being and that they're actually pregnant and it's not some weird scam. And if this birth mother matches what you have selected, what you're able to do, they include you in a packet of probably a couple hundred profiles, maybe a couple dozen profiles that get sent to the birth mom. The birth mom then picks their top 3. And then if you're at the top of that list, they notify you, they send you her profile, they give you a whole estimate as to like what to expect with this person, what they know so far, what their family is like, what their background is, if the birth father knows what's going on. And then also just an expectation of what the costs will be, because depending on what state they live in, there's a lot of legal issues. And also you pay for the birth mother's living expenses up to about, I think it's 2 months after birth or something like that, because the idea is that you want this person to be as safe as possible. They don't need to feel like they need to survive and work, because that's really what leads people to abusing drugs, is that they don't feel safe. So they take an inventory of everything that, what this person's rent is, if they have a home, and all of the costs to expect for that, and they give you this profile. And then you choose whether or not you want to match back with them. You do a Zoom call, you vibe, or you don't, and then you move on to phase 2. What was the question again?
Yeah.
That's actually where we're going with this. Have you faced any significant challenges or obstacles during this process?
Yeah. So we actually had a failed adoption in June,
In June.
and it was difficult. I mean, it's something that everybody warned you about could happen.
They
You know,
downplay how often it
I think
happens.
every situation is different. So whatever, story somebody told you about their experience is likely to be different than what you go through. Um, but yeah, I think we want to share maybe some of the red flags and some of the things that
Yeah.
led to that, and
This
kind
feels
of
like
how to
one of
move
those
on.
old school YouTube story time, had a failed adoption. We've been having conversations about how much of this we want to be able to share because it is so personal to us and it was very traumatic, and how much we want to how much we need to protect the identity of this birth mother. And at the end of the day, this really is her story.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do we start with this? We were in Oaxaca, in Mexico, when we got the call. Andres was taking a nap. I got a call from a Los Angeles number that I didn't know what it was, and it was the agency saying that we had been selected by a birth mother in the Northeast. And I went and woke Andres up, and it was a late selection. They were a month away from their due date.
Yeah. And honestly, at the time, we were thrilled. This sounded ideal to us. We always liked the idea of just kind of it happening and, getting into that mode.
We'd rather have to jump right into action than have like 3 or 4 months to have to like
Wait.
worry about it and build things. Like we'd rather just make it our full-time job and do it. So we were super excited. I think it was the next day we had a Zoom call with the mom. They actually didn't get on the Zoom for the first hour. So we started having a little bit of
Panic.
panic. We're like, oh, wow, well, you know what? This is a late decision. Maybe they couldn't make up their mind. Maybe they haven't made up their mind.
Yeah.
She eventually said she just woke up. She's exhausted. She has 2 kids already who are super high energy. And we had the best Zoom call ever. She was awesome. She was so much fun. She was so charming. She was gorgeous. So I think it's very easy to get caught up in the excitement of it. So like,
Yeah,
we
but
were
due
good
to the
go.
short due date, we kind of had to get some planning done. And I think part of that was we really wanted to spend time getting to know her and her situation. So we actually scheduled a trip to go meet her.
Yeah, we had a print modeling job in Montreal. So we were already going to be on the Northeast region. And it was about 3 weeks before the due date. We were supposed to have lunch. We ended up staying at my cousin's house. My mom has tons of family all over the Northeast, fortunately, which helped make this a lot more affordable. What ended up happening was the day that we were supposed to have lunch, she didn't answer our phone calls. She had been slow to respond to texts, but I figured she was just exhausted because she's 8 months pregnant. We did eventually get a text saying, sorry, she went to the hospital for pain. We figured out which hospital it was, and we got over there, and they decided to induce labor. It wasn't until that moment we finally got into the room to see her that we learned that she hadn't told her family, she hadn't told the birth father. Her and her whole family were immigrants from another country where there was a huge cultural difference when it comes to looking at adoption. It was a country where they love gay people, but they don't do adoption. Again, I'm not sure how much we want to be able to share about her particular situation, but I think it was one of the most difficult things I've ever seen someone have to go through. There were a lot of like people-pleasing tendencies where they kept promising us that they wanted us to adopt. They wanted us to adopt, but to not say anything to their parents. And Andres and I were in the room with them for like a 26-hour labor. We slept in chairs that didn't recline, poor us. Andres cut the cord.
Yeah, so we were there for the birth.
I had the bracelet that the dad normally wears to be in the recovery room.
We had the whole birthing experience. It was exactly what you'd envision this moment to be, with the asterisk like hanging over us of like, there's something telling us not to get too excited because something is off. And like the family not knowing was part of it. The fact that like we had to pretend that we weren't excited to be parents in some of those moments was really unfortunate, but obviously played out.
There was a moment
differently.
about 20 hours into the contractions that the mom leaned into her daughter's ear and accused her of selling the baby. they had figured it out. So the family mounted this massive campaign and pretty much threatened to exile this woman who had 2 young kids already, who was already feeling unsupported and isolated. And eventually our agency had convinced us that it was time to draw a line and back away at some point. So it was really hard. It was probably the most difficult thing I've experienced in years.
Yeah.
I mean, Andres lost his mom this year, so it's just been a rough year for Andres. But I've been skating through life for the last few years. This hit me in the face like a sack of bricks.
Yeah, it was just very emotionally hard, but what made it just very unique is how quickly it all happened, both the expectations and the happiness, and then the downfall and the like just kind of return to normalcy. I feel like it was just such an intense experience, but it almost felt brief in a weird way. And I think I'm coming at it from having lost my mom and my brother, and I just know grief is this like months long thing, and like especially losing my mom to like cancer, it was so slow that this to me just seemed like such a whiplash moment.
Yeah, because every day we thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, every day was different.
Happen, and then we thought it was going to happen, and then we didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was 11 days from start to finish, from the day we matched to the day that we were in the room with her and the social worker, and we had to tell her that if the baby discharges from the hospital with her, that we can't just wait around Boston for her to make up her mind. So, it didn't really hit me until a few days later. And then we had cleared our entire schedules for June and July.
Yeah, so we just canceled all sorts of jobs and trips, and we had to essentially start all over, which
so we're back in phase 1. They say that you're not supposed to tell friends and family until it's a done deal. You're supposed to kind of just disappear to wherever it's happening. Say you're going on vacation, even if it's to like Wichita or something, and don't break the news until I think it's about 3 or 4 days after birth when everything is fully finalized. And we made that mistake because we were staying with family. And that's something that I definitely will not do next time. That was a huge lesson for us, is to keep this to yourself.
Yeah, something that was also weirdly hard was also the fact that we were going through the experience of, I think in the moment when we were at the hospital and we were excited one day and really fearful the next, we were also thinking of like, oh, we actually haven't announced on social media that we want to adopt. And we had already shot some content.
Yeah.
And
so we put out the announcement.
We also wanted to announce the fact that we were just generally adopting, so that, if a week later we have a baby, it's at least like something we've like shared with people. But then we told everyone we were adopting the same time we had this failed
fortunately,
adoption.
we hadn't announced a match, but
I'm just saying we had like people constantly just congratulating us on our decision when we were going through hell after having this failed adoption. I think
it was like the day we walked away that Out Magazine picked up the story and ran it. So we had strangers coming out of the woodwork with all these congratulations, and that was fine. But it was more it was weird and it hurt. But the hardest thing for me was having to tell my mom and my brothers and having to share that trauma with somebody else, like to make them experience that too. It felt unfair, and that's why I'm going to be keeping the news of the match to myself, because we'd already shared with them that we're planning to adopt.
I would put off calling my grandma and telling her for like almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know, like there was no embarrassment, like I didn't do anything wrong. I was just so afraid of like breaking her heart.
Yeah, no, I had sent pictures to my family of Andres cutting the cord and us holding this baby. Like we have a whole album. And as hard as it is for us, I cannot imagine how much more difficult it would have been for this birth mother. So fortunately, we didn't leave with any sense of anger or resentment. It was definitely insanely expensive, sure, but this is what we saved for. Like we were there for a reason. This person needed us there to be a support, even if it was just to get her family to step up. But it was all very confusing.
And honestly, I think, I made me proud to be with Max because I saw him in this moment where it was really hard for both of us. And I thought we both did our best, and I could tell like he really was like the voice of grace. Even when I was angry, when I was just making sure that my point of view got expressed, I think like you did a good job at balancing like just making sure we felt the way we needed to feel while also just making sure we catered to what was happening and
Yeah.
other people in much more dire circumstances.
Yeah. I've always been one of those people that when I know I'm going through a difficult time, I have this almost like self-care reflex that happens. So the day we stepped away, we left the hospital. I think I'd been sleeping at the hospital for 3 nights in a row at this point. We get in the car, we go and get a coffee. The plan was to go to the gym, but we sat in the car on the side of the road, reclined the seats, put on a meditation, and just cried. Like we let ourselves feel it. And then we went to the gym. We did some yoga. And there were days, like weeks later, because we'd cleared our schedule where we were just stuck at home doing nothing, where the same thing would happen. And it comes and goes on really weird, like there's no schedule for it. And it's important to not run away from that because it's going to hit you no matter what. Next question. Are same-sex couples vetted more during the adoption process?
I don't think so. It seemed like the same vetting was pretty consistent.
We've actually heard that sometimes gay male couples match quicker because a lot of birth moms are making this choice because they care so much about this kid and still want to be in their life. 95% of adoptions nowadays are open adoptions, which means that the mom stays in their life in some capacity, kind of like I don't want to say like an aunt because it's still their birth mother, but you agree on visits and hangouts and Skype calls, and especially if the kid's another gender or race, you want to have that resource available to this kid and the mom. It really eases the trauma on both sides for both the child and the birth parent.
I also think it's one of the factors of why we like the infant adoption and the relationship we get to have with this person, and that they can be a sounding board for advice for our child in the future on a variety of topics that we thought was wonderful. And, it's like we weren't trying to be jealous parents of like, oh, no, our kid is ours. And it's like, no, this kid needs all the support it can get. And so we like this open adoption method, and it's one of the reasons we specifically went to infant adoption.
And it's speculated that gay men tend to match quickly because a lot of birth moms don't like feeling replaced by another mom. That's not the right word for it. I just don't know the better word for it. But that does seem to be something that happens. But as a result, I do think that when they check you out, when they look at your socials and follow you for a couple months, there is definitely going to be a level of scrutiny that like the average gay man parading around in Speedos all the time should probably be aware.
Yeah.
That it's a probably heterosexual mom looking for wholesome support, that kind of world. So you definitely have to be a little more careful about what you're putting out into the world while people are looking at considering you for placing their child with you. So maybe tone it down on the thoughty stuff.
It just depends on who you are and what you want to match on and how important that match is versus just having a kid. So for us, it's been a line of like, well, this is also the direction we want to go once we have kids. So I don't think we're toning it down for the sake of a birth mother. I think we're toning it down because when we do have a toddler, this is the content we're going to be creating.
Yeah. Well, we had Kyle Krieger on recently to talk about burnout and sustainable creation, and he uses OnlyFans to fund his work so that he's no longer kowtowing to brands or whatever it is. And one of the questions here is, what are the factors to consider when adopting? That's one of them. That's one of the main reasons we haven't done platforms like that, is because that will not entirely close that door, but it will make it a lot harder to do things like this. Motivation time. How did you know it was the right time to start the adoption process, and what motivates you?
I think the biggest driver was the fact that we had a house.
You just know you're ready.
We lived in like not enough space for the two of us, and then we moved into a place where there was enough space for the two of us and then some extra space. So we had a lot of guests, and then we thought maybe this guest can be replaced with a screaming child.
That's what we were thinking, is this room needs a small demon disturbing the peace at all times. Next question. Are you sure about adopting, and how committed are you to this path?
We're sure.
Did my mom write this? No.
We put a down payment. I don't know what you wanted me to say.
How do you explain adoption to your future children? There's never a coming out with it. It's just part of the story from day one.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
That's what we've agreed on. That's what the studies show is very beneficial, is honesty and truth. And a child is very adaptable. They are open to any story of their origin. And as long as it's presented with love and intention and this is who you are and pride, I think that they'll run with that and become great adults.
How many children are you hoping to adopt? Should we just yell our answer on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Are we doing this rock, paper, scissors style? Oh, no, because it's a podcast.
Yeah, no, they can't see it. Ready? So we're going to just yell our answers at the same time.
Wait, what is that ideal scenario? Like unlimited funds or like a realistic...
You're thinking too much. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
2.5.
Yeah, it's 2.5, actually. We would love a big family, but we live in coastal California where that's not always the most convenient option. My younger brother has 3. My older brother has 2. The inmates run the asylum when it's 3. So I think we're looking at 2.
Yeah.
For now. If we hit the lottery and are millionaires and can afford unlimited support and maybe like a cleaner to come twice a week, 3. 7? TBD. What is the maximum number of children a same-sex couple can adopt in the U.S.? What are you doing? Are you trying to start a circus? No. Yeah, there's just, most of these questions weren't really questions. They were just massive amounts of support and good wishes.
Aww.
And I don't know. I don't know how to thank you guys enough for all of the love and kindness you've shown us through this process. Part of feeling ready is our community. And even though we don't know a lot of people on the internet that follow us personally, it does feel like community. Both our friends, our family, and just people at large. We feel really supported through all of this. And going through such a challenging time back in June, more than anger or disappointment, I'm left with this massive amount of gratitude that I have a wonderful partner that I get to do this with, that I can withstand anything with, and that I have a community that will be there for me when things inevitably get hard.
Oh.
As with every episode of Stuff Every Queer Kid Should Know, we like to end on a low note with a segment called Fight Me. Andrés has been provided a list of controversial topics, and we'll be selecting one to fight about.
I don't think I feel like fighting today.
Yeah, I'm not really in the mood either.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to have to agree to agree.
Agree to agree. All right. What a firm handshake.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Stuff Every Queer Kid Should Know. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and Jake Wachtel. Additional production by Cass Falding and Chantilly Toison. The episode was recorded by Jason Siegel, Mun Singh, edited by Jesse Trout, and mixed by Mike Fry. Music by Tom Goss. If you like this show, don't forget to share it with your friends, subscribe on your preferred channel, or all of them, and give us a 5-star rating. It would be super, super helpful. Thank you so much to all my Patreon subscribers. You are credited in the show notes. Thank you for listening. See you next time.